welcome to Tarmac. I'm Dave.
And I might as well be Matthew, because this is the new Nissan X-Trail ePower e4ORCE.
That's right, it's a petrol-powered SUV that actually thinks it's an EV. Come, let's take a look at this. Okay, I'm going to get this out of the way up front, but I actually attended the launch of this, or the global launch of this, over in Slovenia, and Matthew's probably going to bring this up, or he's probably even rolling his eyes right now. But the good thing about that for you guys is that you can see the video on our channel on that, and also we've recently done the TIL model of the X-Trail, so you can look at some of the stuff from there and get more au fait with what's going on. But as a quick walk around, the V-Motion grille is wider. Overall in size, it's basically wider, taller, but a little bit shorter. And also the lights have been changed, and you know, the grille has now got more bling to it, and so with the lower skid plates and balances and stuff like that. But on the whole, in looks, it's very much the same as the TIL, and what's the big difference is what goes on under here. Let's have a look around the side. Well, the difference is that we've got some 20-inch feet on here, which I think are optional on some of the other models. Still got the protective garnish around the side here, so giving it a little bit more protection around there. It's still got the floating, or the patented floating roof across here, wide B pillars, and also look at these doors open 85 degrees. I mean, you can just drive straight through or walk straight through whenever you want to from there. The big thing to point out is the e-Power, and you will see a lot of e-stuff going on, as Matthew pointed out earlier. So there is plenty of e-ness. So e-Power, e4ORCE, is just excellent. Again, the tail end is the same as the TIL or whatever from there. You've still got your roofline spoiler, you've got your new Nissan badge, your X-Trail, or maybe it should be an EX-Trail. But the big thing is e4ORCE badging, e-Power badging. So that makes you know that you're more superior to any other X-Trail driver that's out there. So wear those badges with pride. The other thing is a kicker tailgate that opens up to... Actually, it's slightly less, it is slightly compromised than the TIL, but the big thing is it's got this multi-level, I don't know, trunk space that you can rearrange and put different things in different areas and hide things and stash things and all that sort of stuff, but pretty good all round. But the big thing is under the bonnet, so let's go there. So here we have the e-Power's pièce de la résistance, which is basically the power system itself. And let me see if I can describe or explain this to you. It's essentially two power systems in one. So you've got a 1.5 litre three-cylinder petrol engine that acts as a generator. That sends the power to an inverter. The inverter then sends that inverted electricity to a battery, a 1.8 kilowatt hour battery. That battery then drives the two motors. So essentially the petrol engine never touches the wheels, but essentially it just comes on and off whenever it wants to top up that battery. Now, once that, in terms of the actual power, so you've got 157 kilowatts of power that's coming through combined, and also with the two motors, because this is an e4ORCE, you've got a 300 Newton meter electrical engine on the front and a 195 Newton meter electrical engine on the back. So there's plenty of power going on, but more importantly, it acts like an EV. So you put your foot down, you get that instant torque, and away you go. So it's all draining from that little battery. So yes, you can actually go EV only, but with the 1.8 kilowatt hour battery, it's not massive. 6.1 litres of, or per 100 kilometres of fuel efficiency, which is not exactly brilliant, but not bad. And also 143 grams of CO2 that sort of comes out of, I guess there's an exhaust system. We'll see if we can find it. But all in all, it's not a bad system, particularly because it's a four-wheel drive system.
Speaking of not bad systems, I guess I'm probably outmatched by that infotainment screen there, since Nissan has upgraded it for this new generation of the X-Trail. But I'll get into that in just a minute. Now, to glance over all the features, the cabin is virtually identical to that of the petrol-powered TIL. You get the dual panoramic sunroof above, you get the quilted leather, quilted Nappa leather seats, which are heated, some nice side bolstering there, and soft leather. You get a higher level of materials in general across the cabin, so everything you touch is quite soft. This faux wood trim as well, feels pretty good, at least to the eye. You get plenty of storage spaces around as well. It is a family SUV, so very convenient there. But there is a bit of a change in layout when it comes to this center console here. So firstly, you got your wireless phone charger there, and it's got a little LED light strip around it as well, just to highlight, I guess, the glory of your phone, or whatever you want to call it. The shifter is different as well. It's now the shape of it entirely is different, and the movement is slightly changed too. You also get a B regen sort of braking mode, or a braking mode additional as well. And the really big change here is these two buttons here, so EV and E pedal, but we'll talk a bit more about that on the drive. Now, with that all glanced over, let's take a look at the infotainment screen. Now, this screen on the ePower TIL model is actually larger, so we're looking at something like 12.3-ish inches there. In terms of functionality, it's quite similar. In fact, it's identical to that of the standard TIL. When I say standard, the TIL is the premium model, but you do get, you know, this home screen layout there with shortcuts for your navigation, your audio, and your phone, and then a navigation bar down the right side there with all your shortcuts. So you got notifications there, your home button, which takes you to that, and you can customize what you see on the following screens as well as the home button, of course. You get your navigation shortcut there, your media, calls, and then your apps as well. The GPS system is pretty good in terms of the pinpoint location for where you are, and, you know, getting around to places. And you get some more settings by clicking that little cog over there. So there is a lot to go around in terms of technology, but it is missing a hybrid drive or an ePower drive sort of monitor, which we haven't been able to find. So if you found it somehow, then make sure to let me know via the comment section. Anyway, the next screen in this car, remember Nissan say it has 3 screens. So the second screen is in front of the driver. So let's take a look at that. Now, the big change with this screen here is actually the layout you'll see is similar. Again, you've got the two sort of rotary dials, or analog dials on the right side, analog looking dials rather, and your customizable screen in the middle. But while this right side one is standard, you see the speedometer there, the petrol gauge at the bottom. The left side one is different actually, because it shows you your power percentage in terms of your e-power. It shows you the battery level as well on the bottom. Those two are different, and of course if you're recharging or not. So that left side especially is a big change there. The good thing with this screen is you can actually customize what you see in the central area there just by pressing the buttons on the steering wheel. So if I do that, you know, you can scroll through and see different sort of trip information. We've been averaging, there you go, 6.2 liters per 100 Ks, so just above what the factory rating is. The energy flow, well, it is missing from the infotainment screen there, but you do get to see it in front of you as the driver. So you can see there the wheel, the battery, and the engine. And as Dave said earlier, the engine, the power from that never directly reaches the wheel. So quite a smart system in the way it optimizes that. Speaking of the engine and battery and wheel combination, well, how does that actually feel in the driving? Well, let's go for a drive and find out exactly what's what.
So obviously the first thing I'm going to bring up is the last time I drove this vehicle was in Slovenia. Beautiful place, really the green center of Europe, and that's exactly why they were launching it there, because this has very much a strong green feel about it, particularly with that sort of e-drive or EV style drive. I mean, we're going over some really bumpy stuff here, but so the environment's not being good to us, but we're being better on the environment. There you go.
I'll tell you what, if I had $1 for every time Dave mentioned Slovenia, I could probably afford to go there. Or maybe even buy this X-Trail. But on another note, it's so interesting the way the technology works, as Dave explained to you earlier, that the petrol engine power never touches the wheels. It's always via the electric system. And what that means is you get actually a really quiet drive in here on the roads. Even this is in fact, a really bumpy sort of course, unsealed road, and there's not much cabin noise, to be honest, not much bumps coming through. So it is really well insulated, and despite the fact that it's riding on 20-inch wheels, you know, it does the job well.
Absolutely. The to really emphasize, I mean, this is all about the ePower anyway, but it does act like an EV. So you got that instant torque, you put your foot down, away it goes, it coasts well. And the freakish bit about it is the fact of that, I mean, we're both big fans of the 3-cylinder engines because of the notes that come out with it. You can't actually hear too much of the engine, but also when it does come on, it just comes on at odd times. It's got no relation to, well, unless you're really putting your foot down, no relation to what's going on with your right foot. It's bizarre.
That's right, and the charge monitor especially is an interesting thing to observe, because you can see when, you know, the engine is really actively trying to charge up that battery. But the technology is so interesting because it's something that, you know, Nissan have actually developed, I think, for the first time in 2015. It saw the light of day via the Nissan Note, and then they've gone on to just accelerate that with their bigger stuff, and now we find it in the X-Trail here.
Yeah. The other point of note is the e4ORCE. I mean, the four-wheel drive system or all-wheel drive system in this is amazing. It's an electrical system or an electronic system that responds 10,000 times faster than a mechanical system. So when you are going around curves and on stuff that's either off camber or loose metal or just snow, whatever pull grips, it does send the power to the right wheels basically instantaneously, so you feel so confident to be able to just throw it ridiculously into corners.
That power distribution is really intelligent, and I know Nissan calls their systems, you know, Nissan Intelligent Mobility and all that stuff, but really the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and you know, that's what this car is proof that it is actually intelligent.
Unlike you. Anyway, the steering wise is great. It's reasonably well weighted. It's not you're not too far removed from what's going on underneath on that suspension or anything like that. So actually, I don't mind the steering. It's good. Visibility all round is great, and also those access points where you can get in and out. Even somebody of my girth can get in and out of the back seats without losing, running out of breath or something like that.
It does, you know, in terms of practicalities, it does all those things really well, but at the same time it feels luxurious because of that leather, because of the soft materials, that Bose audio system, and the larger touchscreen that you have there. So they really have, as you saw with our TIL reviews, really have stepped it up with this generation in general, and then adding the e4ORCE ePower model just adds another layer of, what do I say, icing on the cake.
Easing on the cake, if it was going to be from there. The other thing is, does have the video monitor in the rear view mirror. It's got the head-up display screen. It's got the 12-inch screen there, so it's bigger there, and also the instrument cluster is bigger, so you get tons of information, but somehow it's not overpowering. You've got the stuff you need and how you want it, which is great.
I did want to make a gag that they've just simply made the X-Trail more efficient by adding E to everything, because you've got ePower, e4ORCE, you've got the e-pedal, you've got EV mode. So it may seem like they've done that, but it is truly more efficient than the petrol-powered X-Trail. And speaking of e-pedal, you engage that and you get to use just your accelerator to sort of drive and slow down the car to a certain extent. Yes, for coming to a full stop, you do need the brakes, and for, you know, an emergency brake situation like that, you do need the brakes. But for most day-to-day driving, you can just use the one pedal to, you know, keep your distance from the traffic and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we just went round all the those sort of tight curves and stuff like that without me touching the brakes at all, and you know, there wasn't the usual look of fear in Matthew's eyes, which is bizarre.
Despite the fact that, so this ePower model is, this e4ORCE model, or e4ORCE and ePower model is easy for me to say. It's 200 kilos heavier than the standard petrol TIL X-Trail. You do get not 100 times, something like 7 seconds, so it still picks up quickly despite that extra weight.
And also the other button beside the e-pedal is the EV mode. Now that does give you pure EV sort of power, so you can just drive without any interruptions from the petrol engine. But it's only a 1.8 kilowatt hour battery, so you're not going to go too far. I guess the benefits would be the likes of sort of real downtown city stuff where you've got the congestion charges or whatever those charges are. There's always charges downtown. So there you have it, the new Nissan X-Trail, ePower, e4ORCE, e-car, whatever you want to call it. Just throw E in front of everything and you've nailed this car. Look, it's bizarre as far as the power system goes, as far as having a backup generator on board to power your wheels, indirectly power your wheels, but somehow it works so well. It does feel, or does give you that EV feel. So for those that are on the cusp of buying an EV but don't quite know whether to or not because you're worried about range or all that sort of stuff, this nails it. I mean, I picked it up with around about 700 kilometers of range. So literally, if you do want to go wherever across New Zealand, you can pretty much do it in this.
In general, this new X-Trail has been, a massive improvement over the last one, but this e4ORCE model is in fact even better than the TIL. It really is the cream of the crop of the current X-Trail. So if you were thinking of getting one, this is probably the one to go for.
Yeah, and particularly price-wise, it's only about 4 or 5 grand. I mean, 4 or 5 grand more than the TIL that we did before. So value-wise, it's really good as well. You get a ton of extras with it. Nice. Speaking of extras, just make sure you subscribe to us, and you never know, you may get a few extras on the end of it. I don't even know what that means.
So, yeah.
See, with double E's, you later.